Hey everyone, welcome to Wax Pack Wisdom, where we talk baseball history through card breaks and the cards we love. My name is Jake T. O'Donnell. Today, we're opening this pack of 1984 Topps. Yes, we are continuing our run through the eras of baseball cards. We are getting somewhat closer to what people refer to as the junk wax era when it comes to baseball cards. And the fact that Topps and the other companies started to get more involved, started to produce the cards at very high levels, but we love these cards all the same. Again, this is about baseball cards and the cards we love and card breaks, and hopefully this 1984 pack will get us some Hall of Famers, some good cards. As far as rookie cards go, there's two guys who are not Hall of Famers in Don Mattingly and Darryl Strawberry, two very famous players who started their careers in New York. Obviously, Mattingly played his whole career with the Yankees. So let's see what we get. Let's see if we get any other Hall of Famers. The Nolan Ryan and all those guys, and Carl Ripken, and you just never know who you're going to find. So there's the gum. Unfortunately, Glenn Brummer's card got a bit messed up. If you saw on social media, I did chew some gum in a video. I'm never doing that again. Follow us on social if you want to see that video. All right, first one is Jorge Bell, who had a really good career eventually, long time career, good player with the Blue Jays, and played a lot and was a really nice player. Again, we're looking at the sort of classic Blue Jays powder blue uniforms that they occasionally bring back. Kind of a cool one. Next up is Claudell Washington, who I think we had a card of his in the 1983 break that we just did. And he was a very good outfielder at this point with the Braves. Started his career with the A's. He was a world champion with the A's in 74, was on that team as a rookie. And then bounced around, good base stealer. Hit for a decent average occasionally, 279 hitter at this point with the Braves. Nice player. Kind of just a solid outfielder, solid contributor. I can't really say I know anything about George Frazier. This is not the greatest era for the Yankees after the sort of mid-'80s, Mattingly arriving, sort of post-Dave Winfield, all right, I suppose maybe Winfield was still there, but sort of the post-Reggie Jackson era, that's for sure. All right, Aurelio Lopez was a reliever. He was a closer. I think him and Willie Hernandez were kind of the two big relievers. So this is a good opportunity to talk a little bit about the 1984 Tigers, who were one of the most dominant teams in baseball history. That team got off to a 35-5 start. One of the most dominant stretches for any team, managed by Sparky Anderson, with superstars like Kirk Gibson, Alan Trammell, Lou Whitaker, Jack Morris, others. They were just one of the most dominant teams in MLB history, and they swept their way into the World Series. I believe that the final was in 6 games against the Padres. Kirk Gibson hit a huge home run off of Goose Gossage. Very famously, Dick Williams wanted Kirk Gibson to be walked. Goose Gossage talked him out of it, and Kirk Gibson ends up hitting a home run that eventually was, I think, the difference in that game. And they win the World Series. But Aurelio Lopez was a really critical part of that team in the bullpen, and so that's Aurelio Lopez, but a great Tigers team, and really fascinating group of players. Star from Mexico. Mike Torres. I think we've talked about Mike Torres in previous videos as sort of a critical member of the 1978 Red Sox, and eventually made his way. He had been with the Yankees before, and then again eventually made his way to the Mets. But one of these guys that was never an ace pitcher, but it's just kind of funny to look at the back of the card and see a guy who wasn't an ace, but he was throwing 252 innings, 266 innings year in, year out. That's just the way that things worked back then with pitchers. You were expected to, even the guys that were sort of bottom rotation players, they were expected to go 9 innings. And And that's what a guy like Mike Torres did. He was a good pitcher. Like I said, maybe not necessarily an ace. He started for the Red Sox in the playoff game in 1978 that they, of course, lost, the Bucky Dent game. Anyway, Carney Lansford, who I've talked about him, I believe, previously. First off, look at that facial hair there. Classic Carney Lansford. He had been with the Red Sox, and he was kind of the reason why Wade Boggs didn't start his career with the Red Sox until much later than he probably should have, and then the Red Sox end up trading him to the Athletics before the 1983 season to make room for Wade Boggs. And it's hard to say that wasn't the right decision, but Carney Lansford was a really good player, really critical part of. I believe he stuck around the A's for a long time. I believe he was the third baseman on the teams that were there in the late 80s. Really nice player. Like a 300 hitter, like year in, year out. Carney Lansford. Nice player. All right. UL Washington famously used a toothpick all the time. Always had a toothpick in his mouth, and was a shortstop and a very good player for the Royals. He's I believe, on the Alan Trammell Paul Molitor 1978 Topps rookie card. Pretty sure of that. And stuck around. Good player. 153 games at shortstop for the Royals team that won the World Series in they did not win the World Series in 1980. They were in the World Series in 1980. The Phillies won. Jorge Orta. I have mentioned him on a previous video that he was one of the... his claim to fame was that he was involved in one of the most famous disputed plays in the history of the World Series, possibly the single most consequential bad call in the history of the World Series. A play at first base late in I believe it was Game 6 between the Cardinals and Royals. He was on the Royals. Play at first base. He's running down the line. He very clearly is out. He very clearly beats the play. And Don Deckinger, the first base umpire, called him safe. He was out by half a step. If it was today, it would have been overturned. And probably the Cardinals win the World Series that year. But the Royals end up coming back. They win that game, and then they win Game 7. So, unfortunate. Don Deckinger had to wear that for the rest of his life. He might still be alive. I'm not positive. But that's Jorge Orta's claim to fame. So we have a Hall of Famer in the middle of this card, of course, Reggie Jackson, who we've talked about a lot. AL active career home run leaders at this point. So this would be, I guess they had, this card would have been created. Carl Yastrzemski had retired in 1983. That was his last year. It was known that it was his last year. He did the lap around the stadium the last day. And then, so Reggie Jackson had more home runs than Carl Yastrzemski already anyway, but it's fascinating to see that the next two were two guys who were not Hall of Famers in Greg Nettles and Greg Luzinski, a couple of Gregs. Greg Nettles, I've talked about him in previous videos, hard-nosed, third baseman, great hitter, great player, teammate of Reggie Jackson's, of course, with the Yankees. And then Greg Luzinski, who, man, I feel like I could do a whole video about Greg Luzinski. Consummate, classic, 70s, 80s ball player. Just huge, not athletic at all. And I say this lovingly, like, I always said this about Adam Dunn, that Adam Dunn was a big donkey. Greg Luzinski was a big donkey. Not a good defensive outfielder by any means. But, I mean, just look at him. How can you not love that guy? Come on. Anyway, maybe we'll talk more about Greg Luzinski in another episode. All right, John Denny, pitcher for the Phillies, I think. Nah, he had not been there when they were in the World Series, but anyway. Mike Easler, I'm going to flip these cards around. Mike Easler was a very good hitter for a lot of years, and then eventually made his way to the Red Sox. And when I was growing up watching the Red Sox, he spent a few years as the Red Sox hitting coach during some very good years for the team. So, but at this point, Mike Easler, I think the next year, 85, he goes to the Red Sox. But 79, he's on the Pirates, kind of a part-time player, the year that they won the World Series. And then, yeah, just a nice left-handed hitting. You can see he hit 307 in 83. Nice player, nice hitter, and eventually taught his craft to others. Tom Niedenfuer is a fascinating guy and a fascinating history. And we don't have a lot to talk about with the other guys in this, but I'll just say Tom Niedenfuer. We talked about some of the playoff things that happened in the 80s. He was gave up some really famous home runs in huge games, including a home run to Ozzie Smith in, I think it was 85. It could have been 87. Someone will have to correct me later. But he gave up a very famous home run to Ozzie Smith that they won the Cardinals won a playoff game at home. That's the one where Jack Buck is screaming, "Go crazy, folks! Go crazy! It's a home run!" Because Ozzie Smith didn't hit a lot of home runs, and he hit a huge home run, a walk-off home run to win I believe it would have been an NLCS game off Tom Niedenfuer. I think Tom Niedenfuer also gave up a walk-off home run to Jack Clark, or a really really critical home run to Jack Clark. But Niedenfuer was a really good closer. I don't want to take that away from him. But those are the things that I know about him with the Dodgers, and he was a good pitcher, but his career was kind of defined by some bad moments. Lloyd Moseby, really nice player. This is a nice all-star card. Some of the personal data. It's weird. There's a very 21st century feel to that statement, but okay. Was a really nice player, good hitter, and very interesting to see that began as a catcher in Little League, but was cut from his team. It's very Michael Jordan-esque. Lloyd Moseby showed them, that's for sure. I don't really know anything about Leon Roberts, and I don't really know anything about Glenn Brummer, who got the gum. Sorry, Glenn. We've been like a backup catcher on some of those really good Cardinals teams. Let's put Reggie back in the middle here. And that is a pack of 1984 tops. And that's going to do it for this edition of Wax Pack Wisdom. Tell us what you thought of this break. What's your favorite card we pulled today? Do you have a story about one of the players in this pack? Leave us a comment and let us know. We'd love to hear it. If you enjoyed this video, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our Wax Pack Wisdom content. In the video description, you can find links to where you can follow Wax Pack Wisdom on all social media channels. You'll also find a link to a list of our favorite nonprofits and charities. If you enjoyed this video, please consider a donation to one of those organizations. It would mean a lot to us. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Wax Pack Wisdom. Take care.